Hi, everyone. Welcome to ElCo Chats. My name is Julieta. ElCo Chats is a regular podcast where we feature El Camino College students, graduates, staff, faculty, and managers and talk about all things El Camino College. For today's episode, I get to chat with Llendy Bermudez, a current El Camino College student. Welcome, Llendy.
Thank you, Julieta, for having me on ElCo Chats.
So we get to talk about all things your experience. I know a little bit about yourself, but others don't. So I wanted, before you tell me about yourself, tell me a little bit about the start of your El Camino College journey. Fall 2022, you enrolled at El Camino College for the first time at any college. How long has it been since you've been in school, and how did you decide to return?
It had been about, I'm going to say, pushing 21 years. I stopped going to school in 2001, which was the year that I was supposed to graduate. And I went straight into the workforce. And had been in the workforce for all those years. I was starting to kind of wrestle with myself a little bit because I think the inner me wanted to come back to school. But as an adult, you have adult responsibilities, bills, life. So I decided to come back and get a high school diploma because I did not graduate from high school in around 2018, 19. I started to kind of look into high school diploma programs. I'm sorry. And so I ended up graduating from adult education in June of 2022. So when I found out in around May of 2022 that I was going to graduate, I decided to come and enroll at El Camino College.
So 21 years is a long time, and it takes some adjusting to get back into school. But why was it important for you to eventually get that high school diploma before enrolling at El Camino College?
I've always kind of heard, that it's always kind of, you're looked at better if you have a high school diploma, even going into a community college. Those are some of the myths that I think I've heard and I had heard. And that's why I had strived to go back to school to get a high school diploma so that I can have better chances of financial aid or having better chances of getting resources. Not that I'm assuming, or I really don't know if someone who has a high set or a GED would get the same resources. But I didn't want to ruin my chances or kind of ruin any of those chances at receiving those resources and having, my ideal journey at community college or at college period.
Yeah. And I'm so glad that you did get your high school diploma. And again, that you did decide to enroll at El Camino College after 21 years after being in the workforce. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. But before we continue with your academic journey, just tell me a little bit more about yourself. Who is Llendy?
Well, Llendy is a first generation Latino gay male. And this is very new to me, kind of speaking out loud in regards to, where I come from. And I come from a humble beginning. I am the one of 5 children in the house, with my mom being a single mother. And I'm the second oldest. So, we had, as the eldest in our culture, it's like we're always kind of like forced to either work. Like there's no, we're encouraged to go to school. But I think not having parents who have educational foundation, I think it becomes very hard for them to kind of, one, support you academically, two, they don't understand too because of a language barrier. So for me, it was no choice. My choice was to work. So setting that example, even for my siblings, was really important, since I did have 3 younger siblings. But now I'm here.
And I'm glad that you said that and I'm glad you're here too. But I'm really glad that you said that your choice was to work, right? Which I think explains, like you said earlier, a little bit about why it took about 21 years to eventually decide to enroll in college, in El Camino College for the very first time. So having done that, when you made that choice, finally, okay, today is the day I'm enrolling at El Camino College, What surprises did you find along the way?
Some of the surprises that there were resources. There were resources available for me as a student. I think mentally I was coming in with such I was fearful in a sense. I had doubts of the resources or how is it that I'm gonna, succeed in college or in higher education. Obviously, once again, it's like you have to work to survive. But coming into El Camino really kind of gave me like somewhat of a peace of mind, knowing that people, as soon as I walked in, it's like you walk into the information desk and people greet you. And that was the most important part, I think, of coming to El Camino and knowing that as soon as I walked in, I was greeted. So that to me was already like, you're at the right place at the right time.
And speaking of time, our fall semesters typically start around August. And that decision to enroll for you did that in May, which is considered technically late for enrolling, but you still went through with it. What was that experience like?
Well, I didn't know if I was going to graduate. So I didn't know if I should or should have not come. But as soon as I found out, I was like, I'm going to go. Even if I was late, I was like, you know what? I'm not going to risk letting it go by one more day. Like I let 21 years go by and I said, you know what? Let me just go. Like I was so eager in that moment of knowing that I had already graduated. I had accomplished something so dear that I wanted to for such a long time, that I was like, I was ready to run. I was ready to like, I'm here. So for me, that's why I, coming late, it was just the right time for me.
And it sounds like it because you only had a couple of short months before the semester began. I'm curious about what the experience was like in the classroom. Did you take all of your classes in person, or now that we have more online classes, did you take any of those? And again, having had that long break, what was the classroom experience like, both in person and online?
Well, it was a little bit scary. It was a decision I had to really make, whether I wanted to come and like work full time or work part time. Like what route did I want to take? And that was like a pivotal moment in that when I was coming on to El Camino, that I, asking questions like, where do I go? Who do I speak to? Like, what is it? Where do I go? Like, I encountered someone, I don't recall, but I met someone, I think, when I had to do something online, just to finish some of my like, recs to get in for admissions. I'm not too sure, counseling. And I met someone that said that I would be a good fit for a program called Puente. And I had already applied to FYE. I was applying everywhere because I didn't know, I was like, some of the advices that I have gotten along the way have been, just apply for everything, like just go for it, like kind of sort of, not really looking at my age bracket in that very moment. That comes afterwards. So I decided I joined Puente. I went through their interview process, and so to be part of Puente, you have to be a full-time student. And so going into the classrooms, one of the prereqs the requisites that you have to have for Puente is to take English 1A. And that's usually for the program is done during the day. I was really eager and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just work part-time. And that's where I decided to come back full time. The part-time job that I'm at pays very well. So I was able to kind of transition a little bit for me. I mean, it was just the right time. I feel like everything was just at the right time, at the right place, including my part-time job that I had acquired during the summer, because it was like kind of like I had quit my job to come full time. So in that semester break or that summer break, so many things happened. Like everything was just going by so fast that I didn't know, like it was like brace yourself, but I was ready. I was ready for the commitment. So
And I'm still in awe of the fact that you had that 21-year break, by the way, because you mentioned being in Puente meant that you were enrolled in English 1A. And for those who don't know, English 1A is college level English, which requires a lot of reading, a lot of writing, and definitely a research paper. So what was that like, getting back into classes like math and English for the very first time after so long?
Just to think about it, I get this like weird sensation. I was so scared. I'm not gonna lie. It was the most scariest transition I had in my life, because this is a real commitment. This is a commitment to myself. Really, it's not really to the instructor. I mean, I'm glad and I'm happy that we have great instructors within Puente, but it was more so for me. Like it was a scary thought. Like every day, like I fought with just my own thoughts of not being smart enough, maybe, or like I've waited 21 years to come back to school, and it was like, what is it like? Will I succeed? Like, will I even get through my first week? Will I get through my second week? Just listening to what the curriculum was going to be with our syllabus. It was like, projects, essays, presentation, speaking in front of people. It was, to me, not that I didn't have that already, but it was completely new. It was like what to expect, especially when I walked into a classroom and everyone literally was half my age. That was intimidating.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because I specifically wanted to ask about any specific challenges as an older student. And just so everyone knows, 17% of our student population is age 30 or older. So there could have been a 20-year break. There could have been a 5-year break or whatnot. It really varies. But about 17% of our students are 30 years or older. So what are some challenges as an older student returning to college for the very first time that you want to chat about?
I think one of the first things that comes to mind is honestly is that 20-year gap, but that 20 years that those younger students in there, which are great, so for them, it could have come as second nature, but I was struggling with that, but not knowing that I had lived experience. So that was my boot camp, in a sense, to coming into and being able to write a paper and make it easy for me to just write my experience on paper, but how to do it, how to write it, how to come up with a thesis that I had no clue about in 21 years.
What's a thesis, right?
Right.
And you also have a declared major. How did you decide on a major?
Well, I came in as a business major because I think most people, it's like, oh, business, because it's like the safe way to go. If anything doesn't go right, at least you have a business degree and that you can somehow succeed in the real world. I think that's just something that's been embedded in me throughout my whole life. So I was just taking general education classes, and one of the classes that my Puente counselor put on there was sociology, and I went in there my first day. I remember in Professor Fujiwara's class for Sociology 101 in the old behavioral science building, and I remember just like she just started just to talk about what sociology was, and like, it was an 8 a.m. class, I remember, and there was, once again, everybody was probably half my age, but I was okay, like, because this was my second day in college, so it was okay. But she just started to talk and just like talk about what sociology was about, what we were going to be learning, and like that sparked such a huge interest in me. Like, that was a class that, I mean, I'm never late to classes, but that was a class that I wanted to be there early, and yeah, that's how I literally got to know what sociology was about.
And I think before this interview, we talked a little bit more about what you worked in full time or whatnot. And I think in that conversation, I remember saying like you were already a sociologist, but you didn't know it. So the fact that you were taking a class and it just sort of clicked for you. So that's an amazing experience about choosing a major that you already had that work experience that you just brought in, and now you were able to just put a label to what it was that you had been doing for 20 years. Is that sort of what it was like for you?
Absolutely. Actually, You come in. I'm completely oblivious to what it is to declare a major. Right. I'm just a fresh graduate with 20 years right of experience. I say, I'm graduating, getting a high school diploma. It's completely different. So it's not like you're choosing a major. It's that this is what you're required to. Right. So coming into in choosing this, I was coming out of working for a nonprofit where I was able to do a lot of outreach work. I was working with the community during the pandemic within the LGBTQ plus IA community, working with people with mental health issues. There were just so many different areas that professor was talking about that I was like, this is what I was already doing. So for me, that's when it was like, it clicked and it was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to continue doing. And I'm not in a race, but I'm excited even for the next semester because I get to take another sociology class. So,
and I'm glad you bring it up because now you're in sociology, but there is something else. So what's next for you in terms of any short-term plans? Are you transferring? Are you graduating, getting your degree, going back into the workforce? What's the next steps for you?
Well, just to let you know, and I totally forgot to tell you this during the interview, but I didn't know that I was possibly graduating with 3 associate's degrees, but I'm initially transferring associates in sociology. So it's an AAT to sociology. I've applied to the big UCs, which has been a very intimidating process. So UC Berkeley, hopefully in the house UCLA, some of the Cal States, Cal State Long Beach, Cal State Fullerton, some to name a few of those. So that's my short-term goal, is just getting into higher education, finishing my bachelor's, and venturing into a master's program. Crossing my fingers.
No, I definitely see that for you in your future. So do you think that coming back to school after so long and coming in with that work experience or that life experience even, was that something how did that affect ultimately your experience here at El Camino and in the future as you transfer?
One of the things that I decided to do when I came into El Camino was kind of just dispose of my old past experiences. Not that I didn't want to let them go. I had to let them go. It was because I was venturing into something new where I wanted to learn new traits, new characteristics. I wanted to become strong in areas where I felt like I possibly could have been weak. But I coming to El Camino and meeting so many great individuals who have been able to see past my own insecurities, have been able to ground me, and I've been able to see myself in the mirror and know that it has played a huge role for me in at El Camino College, my journey here. I'm able to speak to a lot more individuals. I'm not scared to have a conversation or to approach someone who's a complete stranger. And those are traits that I learned outside, but it just has allowed me to be that much stronger here with those traits. Yes.
And I'm glad that you said that you're sort of coming here with a blank slate, but at the same time, you still bring that perspective, which I think has made you a strong student, right? So acknowledging that, coming in here after so long, it's not necessarily something negative. It's something that set you up for success, and sounds like it's continuing to set you up, knowing that you have that next goal and the next goal after that. So I'm so happy you decided to come back to El Camino College, or come to college and choose El Camino College to help you on that journey. So now others, and specifically anybody who's 30 years or older, who's thinking about, applying to El Camino College, what do you want to tell them?
It's a scary thought. It's very, very scary to think to even come back to school. But I just want to tell you that it will probably be the best decision that you choose for yourself. We hear it's never too late. It's never too late. Telling you from a 40-year-old perspective, it is not too late. The fact that at El Camino College, one of the reasons why I chose, because I felt welcomed right off the bat. Not that I didn't visit other community colleges or didn't research it at the time, but the community that you will find here at El Camino College, has been such it has changed my life, and it has solidified that the decision that I made that day in May, before I even walked across stage to get a high school diploma, was the right decision. And that, you have to sacrifice a little bit. Yes, you might lose some people along the way. Your friends may not speak to you, or your so-called friends. Your family might just kind of be like, well, hey, where are you at? But it's okay. As long as you know that you are on this new journey, this new path of transformation, of evolution, so that you can be able to help one more life. If this is what this journey is all about, I say do it. And I tell you, if you do it, come to El Camino College, not because it's my college, right? It's my alma mater now, but the resources that we have here, the people that are willing to help you. There's so many programs for us that are above 30 years old that, we can still thrive. 50, 60. I mean, I mean, if somebody who was 80 wanted to come back, I believe that they would thrive at just as well as an 18-year-old that's coming in fresh out of high school.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And it sounds like at any point, if you make that decision to apply, whether it's November for the next year, January, May, or even right before the semester begins, it sounds like as long as you're ready, you're eager, we're here for you, we're going to welcome you, and we can't wait to see you regardless of your age, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Llendy. I appreciate you taking the time to chat with me and getting to know you.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.